Alrighty, I am recording.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Reef.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it? Whether we're young or old.
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Reef Factory Podcast. This is Nathan.
Andrew.
Big exciting show for you tonight. Big exciting week. Big exciting world. Lots of new great stuff going on.
Yeah, like a drug that can regrow teeth in rats that they're going to use in humans.
Cool. Yeah, there won't be any side effects to that.
Yeah.
That's going to go swimmingly.
Well, I'd rather have non-cancer teeth than cancer teeth. It's a tough sell.
The old cancer tooth. Oh, yeah. I've seen that. Some guy in India, like they excise the wound or they open up the bump and there's a fucking tooth under there, just under his skin. It's like, yeah, this is nightmare fuel. You ever seen those pictures that they found of skeletons of babies where all the adult teeth were still waiting in the upper part of the jaw?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. That was from like Egypt or something.
That's not it. Yeah.
But you see stuff like that and it's like, that's worse than watching like just terrible videos because it's like, oh, this is real. Like this isn't made up. Actually happened. Let's see. This week I bought my first Machine and Krieger model in about 4 years.
Oh, okay.
I have the new edition, the Falca Bomber Cat edition of the Falca anti-gravity bomber. No, I never bought any of the other. This is a different version of an older Machine and Krieger model, but this actually came out and it wasn't at inhuman prices, like $400 or some ridiculous. No, I never. This is like first release. Like this came out this year, or maybe. Well, it came out in Japan in 2020, so that's just getting here. But yeah, so taking a break from the Panther tank just to mess around with this. It has a cool gun on it. It's got some kind of coaxial multi-barreled machine gun. And here, and the instructions, they call it the Balkan gun. I don't know why, but they do. Yeah, I don't know. There's you get a lot of English in these instructions because they're translated to English, but they're translated by machine from Japanese. Let me read you one of my favorites from this set of instructions. It says, actually, feeling goes out when the painting of clothes adds to a flat base. Which is directly translated from Japanese as saying paint clothes in a flat base coat. But it's trying to say, like, these will actually look real if you paint them in a flat base, like the clothing on the figures. But it says, actual feeling goes out when the painting of clothes adds a flat base. Love that English. Yeah, but there's been a lot of... it's even weirder when you hold your phone up into it to do an auto translate because because some of the things, a lot of the instructions are arrows, but there's some English language, but it doesn't make sense. It's like, wait a minute, what's this saying? And then you put your phone up and it'll say like, oh, assemble in this order to achieve this, or assemble in this order for that result. Like you can make it look in different modes, I guess, but sometimes the instructions are really vague. So, well, they're not vague, not written in English very well.
No. It's like those
But
are the
they're
best
great
kinds.
models. It always turns out great. So.
So like the
Like I
tank
said-
instructions are always the best kind of instructions.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think. Now this was made with Bandai plastic, that's different. Usually they're made with more of the traditional, like styrene, kind of the rough surface. This is made with that real smooth, slick surface Bandai plastic. So it should paint up. I got the primer coat on it and sanded it already, and it looks really slick. So this should be fun, and it came with its own patch, collectible souvenir patch of a cat standing on a bomb, looking scared. Don't know why. Oh yeah, I'm going with the color scheme from one of my nothing but mech art books, the orange and black color scheme. So hopefully that should be cool. Oh no, it comes with their stick. Hasegawa stickers are pretty good. It has plenty of those in German and English for some reason, but not in Japanese. So I don't. Well, because Machine and Krieger is very like World War II-esque German. It's kind of a reinterpretation of that, so that's why you have both German and English. Because there's two sides fighting each other. One side speaks German, another side speaks English, and that's it's hard to understand the whole universe. It's very complicated. It's not World War II. Yeah. Okay, well, they're only allies in World War. Well, that and the Italians, but that never caught on. Oh, was it? Yeah. Those sets. Oh, yeah, I gotta love the Japanese. They have the best imagination. The strangest, at least. So, yeah, so that's the new thing I did this week. All right. The Bahrain one? Yeah, I saw that. No.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I heard something got stuck in his brake cooling duct. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah. 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 That's pretty damn good. That's not good. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Huh. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd say.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say that's kind of defeating the purpose, but okay, if you want that wind blowing in your face. Yeah, I mean those things are being rocked around so much.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
He crashed, right? Yeah.
Just ease up. Come on. Don't be. Hmm.
I've been watching it. I watched it the normal way on my computer. Okay. I'm gonna try that. Hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
You just do it. Huh? Get all the points. No.
No.
That sounds interesting. Hmm. Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. First time in 60 years, it says here.
Oh, really? I guess I thought they always did like one every couple of years or one every year kind of thing. Because I know they have like the clay track or the brick track, sorry, the Brickyard 500. Still every year. I don't follow NASCAR at all, obviously, but at the same time, I always thought they kind of just returned that race. Oh, okay. Yeah.
For this week, boy, these cars are filthy. How's that engine just? Yeah. Yeah, NASCAR drivers have the best names. Dick Trickle, and that's probably an old one. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, hey, Junior Boyd. It's like, oh, is his dad? What's his name? No, that's just his first name, Junior. Like, oh, that's his actual name. Okay. This is interesting. Oh, okay. Suicide Man. We're just here to watch Grosjean die. And the crowd silently gets up and walks out. Yeah. And the guy was considered by some team owners too dangerous to drive their cars. Like, yeah, he doesn't want to do this. He thinks this is too dangerous. Good luck. Go with God. In a pit stop. Oh, yeah, that's right. They do. They still do that. Okay. I watched that whole YouTube video on the F1 nut, the F1 tire nut. and how that works and how well thought out that is. And it's like you could use this in a lot of applications, but no one else will use it outside of racing. Like you could use this on regular cars. It's like it's that well made, but no one would have any confidence. It's just a feat of engineering, just how it locks up and kind of the redundant features and how it's locked up. Like there can still be problems, but a lot of the problems were engineered out of it as they went along. And it just shows the gun that drives it, like how many pound-feet of torque, or however they measure it in Newton meters there. But it's like, yeah, this thing is incredible. This thing is under an incredible amount of force and pressure, and just on off. There's this giant aired ratchet, just cranked up. And they explain like what they cost and how long they've been into it and what they figured out and what they didn't. Because I think there's like some metallurgy properties to it too that make it unique. Cut weight. Yeah, I can't remember all I remember I watched a 35. Yeah, it's just the F1 nut. That was kind of the wordplay. F1 nut. I can't remember all the things. There was enough to make a 35-minute YouTube video on it interesting. It's like, oh, okay, this is crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're using a fuel ballasting strategy to win. Yeah. Yeah, those guys are like super athletes. Yeah. The only thing I know about F1 pit crews, you don't want to be the outside guys. It's better to be the inside because the outside guys get clipped a lot, or their hoses get pulled into other cars and jerk the tool right out of their hands. Yeah. Well, got up and grabbed his jack and got right back in there. I've seen the older ones, like the guys on the outside, the actual live pit row, the tire change guys especially get clipped. They usually get hit by race cars, but sometimes they do though. Sometimes those guys are way too fast and way too close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys get so focused. It's like, yeah, they got so many things going on.
Well, I haven't watched any of it yet because I just forgot about it. So.
Yeah, I think I remember something like that. Let's see. Did anyone see the Godzilla versus King Kong movie?
Yeah, I just watched it tonight.
Yeah, I watched it too, and it was basically the same as all those movies. It's one of those movies I really liked was Skull Island, just mainly based on Samuel L. Jackson's performance, where he like almost killed King Kong. Just this angry helicopter commander guy. It's like, I'm gonna fuck this guy up. Yeah, I that one was cool. Yeah, I think it got kind of redone because is that the one with Bryan Cranston in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I do remember that one was cool because that was the only one where that was one where in the trailers they played Oppenheimer's speech at Trinity. It's like, and they just had the guys doing like the Halo jump, holding flares. It's like, oh, this is going to be dark and cool. It was kind of that way, but it didn't really. Yeah, yeah.
What?
You want an eighth chance? Okay, we're ready for your eighth chance. But yeah.
Oh, Alexander. No, this was his first one. I think the only ones that repeated was Billy, the girl from Stranger Things, and then Kyle Chandler. I think was the only other holdout from the other movies. But he didn't really have any lines, so he got a good payday for not really doing anything. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I missed a lot of shit too because it's like, well, is there some like weird thing with Apex and Monarch? Because like, oh, Monarch's gonna do this, but it's like, well, I know Monarch was like the big bad corporation of the other movies, but I don't know anything about the ones now. But either way, I mean, it just was something that I felt like I was missing, and maybe would have added something. But I didn't feel like I missed out too much though, because the movie was just pretty straightforward and simple, and just a fight CGI fest.
Yeah. 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 I did like to see Mecha Godzilla show up. That was kind of cool. Very, very Pacific Rim. It's like, oh, when he throws a punch, there's like a rocket assist. It's like, well, yeah, you need that to move multiple tons of metal, and, with just a mechanical motion, not with organic muscles. And they show like, what Kong has to eat, which is like an entire, school of fish to. Yeah, well, how many calories is he burning a day? 1,000,000 just to be alive, So, but yeah, I mean, it was like something fun to watch while doing something else. So,
Yeah.
I wouldn't if I went to a theater and paid $20 to see that. I don't know if I'd be too excited, but
That was 2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours. Which is supposed to be the shortest movie of the ones that came out.
Yeah, it's very straightforward.
Yeah. There's not a lot of thinking to that movie, unfortunately.
No.
Unfortunately, I don't know which one. I mean, I was. Is it sad that she's the most interesting part of that movie with Kong? Like that's the part that I actually cared about in the movie, just like you talked about, where it's like she was really interesting, but like everything else was like, who gives a shit? Like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Is the one from Japan in like 2019. Was it called Shin Godzilla? Where it was like, oh, how would a government react to this? And it's like, oh, poorly. But they would sit down and talk very rationally about we're going to do this and this and this. And that was purely a Japanese movie. But yeah, it was basically a parrot. Okay. Well, okay, I can see that now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because basically, like a parliament would meet and like we're going to do this and we're going to allocate these resources and we're going to.
No, I have not. Okay. Sounds great.
Actually, it is. It's one of the few movies I'll watch that's like subtitled purely. Because it's just so interesting to watch. Well, it's got interesting cinematography, and it wasn't made for a lot of money. It wasn't like an American effects extravaganza, but
Sold. Yeah.
Yeah, it was made for $15 million, so U.S. money. And like America, we're like bad guys in it, but from a distance. Because we're just going to use nuclear attack drones. We don't care what happens to Japan. We're not really talking to any of the people. It's just, oh, those are the American nuclear attack drones. Nuking Japan, which I guess the whole thing was that was a very political movie in Japan because it was talking about it was a critique of the U.S. government, or not the U.S., the Japanese government's poor response to the Fukushima nuclear reactor disasters.
Yeah.
And so it was like, yeah, this is how ineffective our government is, that like evil foreign powers will just come in and nuke us because we can't get our shit together. Which I guess that's like reading between the lines, but that's that the guy who wrote the movie said, yeah, I'm talking about how badly Japan handled the tsunami and the nuclear reactor with like just very lax planning or whatever. Which I don't know if that's true or not, because that was an unprecedented disaster. But I guess if I lived in Japan, I would feel very differently about it, considering like how many people died, and some incredible number of people died as a result of that tsunami.
Yeah, I was just watching something that Oregon and Washington are being hit by the same thing in like another 50 or 30 years.
Wow.
And we don't have any preparation because it's like these two shelves that only collide every 250 years on average, but it always creates massive earthquakes. So this is like a 9.0 earthquake that's supposed to generate, which means like 4 or 5 minutes of shaking. But there's no earthquake preparedness in Oregon, Washington. There's like no earthquake bridges. There's no earthquake housing. Everything's low level. So it's like basically tsunami will just kill everybody and they won't be able to get away because all the bridges fell down, even though they should be able to run to the hills basically. Because they should have like, I think they said 15 or 12 minutes to evacuate, something like that. Very, very short time window. But now they're just getting to like redesigning bridges and redesigning structures to withstand earthquakes there. Because they did a simulation of the biggest bridge in Washington, and like all this, like, oh, after 2 minutes, it just totally collapses and pancakes everything. Okay, like that sounds great.
Well, doesn't Washington have a bad record with bridges?
I do. Yeah, I don't know.
When the Narrows Bridge was built, they called it Galloping Gertie because like this, and people were driving across it like, well, we got to get there. I don't know why that happened. I think it had something to do with the wind, but.
But I mean, either way, like they were talking about this one town called Seaside in Oregon, and how they're like so many feet below sea level, and all their bridges in town are not worth a shit. So like as soon as an earthquake hits, like, oh, it's a straight shot to the giant hill where we can all take shelter and not die, but all the bridges will fall down, so we won't be able to get there.
Individual rocket packs.
And so it was just like, well, that's a very sobering thing because they predicted it would be the worst American disaster of the century. Whenever it happens, just because the sheer amount, because they said like 15,000 people died in Fukushima's thing. Is that right? I can't remember.
That sounds about right.
But they said it was going to be way worse than that because we don't have any tsunami walls, we don't have any earthquake-proof stuff. And it's like, oh, we're planning now. It's like, well, that's great, but if you don't build it now, I don't know if it's going to be worthwhile because they said the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. That's the really sad part, though, because it's like, really, you're just gonna let everybody die eventually? Oh, okay.
I, I'm thinking we're going to come to the point where people living near water, especially the oceans, I mean, where you have a choice, like in Japan, you don't have much of a choice, but I think that's going to start to become something in the next 100 years. It's like we're just not going to do this anymore. Because once
Yeah.
they do New York or something, once New York goes underwater or something, you just move to the interior where that water, where you don't have that problem. You don't rebuild this thing at the cost of trillions of dollars every 50 years. It's like this is not. I mean, if people who want to live on beaches in Florida, they should have to build like pillboxes, like nuclear bomb shelters, so they can just like batten down the hatches. Because the hurricanes, I mean, you're just gonna have more and more and more of them.
Yeah, and it's
Not
something.
going anywhere.
And it's something too, where I mean, you're gonna have to really think about a lot of things like that, regardless of where you live, because supposedly everything's going up because like the apple blossom trees in Kyoto bloom the earliest that are bloomed in recorded history this year, and so with all the sea level rising and the hurricanes and all the other shit going on all the time, it's like this is gonna be really untenable in the next 50 or 100 years, and just because I think we went over before like the cost of basically raising a whole town off the ground, like a small town of like 20,000 people. It's like, oh, it's only $20 billion. And it was like, oh, okay, that seems worth it. Not because the graphic of if all the glaciers melted, what would be left of Florida and Georgia? It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, I think those places are going to become, just like the stuff that's going on in St. Louis. They lost all those houses and stuff. And you look, it's like, oh, that's terrible. What can we do about this? Well, there's one thing we can do is not sell that land to developers at cut rate prices when they know it's in a floodplain. Like we can not build 50,000 homes in a floodplain is something we can do. But then they're like, well, the price of real estate's, and it's like, well, I mean, if it's just going to be fucking destroyed, you're paying for it twice, 3 times, 4 times. How many times is it going to be destroyed? Oh yeah. Yeah, there's like a backhoe there digging graves. It's like we first got all the graves dug and the memorials going up. We did a cost-benefit analysis to memorial versus like solving the problem, and we decided it's better to work through our grief than actually try to solve the problem. Yeah.
I think that'd be the best way to. I think that'd be the best way to evacuate an area, get people not to live there, just put up a statue preemptively of people dying. The 100 years from now, everyone in this town will die. That way, the market tanks in the area, all the economy leaves the area. Everything's already evacuated without any costly spending on infrastructure. Just that, how much is a statue now? Like what, $100,000, $200,000, $1 million? That's a good investment versus billions of dollars for infrastructure. Jeez, I mean, who has that kind of money?
No. Well, let's see. Speaking of infrastructure, aren't they they're going to pass a big bill for infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the specifics of it, but yeah, Biden wants to pass a giant bill for infrastructure, which I'm very happy about because nobody's talked about that for a long time, and it's getting really bad in this country.
Well, yeah, I mean, the roads around here, like I said, we're into spring now, so in spring all the roads wash away in Michigan. So you're driving down the freeway and boom, like you get some bone-jarring collision. Like, did I hit a car? Oh no, it's just a pothole.
False alarm.
Yeah. It's like none of my alerts went off. I got my glasses now.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that when they were on the camera earlier.
Yeah, well, what I did was I made these cost me so much fucking money, and I have insurance for this. I didn't get I don't even have a crazy prescription, but I turned all my icons small again, so I forced myself to use them because all I've been doing is making my icons bigger and bigger and bigger. But they're kind of weird because it's my left eye that's fucked up. So when I close my left eye, like everything's in like ultra HD, but when I open my left eye, everything's just clear again. But yeah, I didn't realize like how much I was missing in the middle distance. I haven't got my work ones yet. That's going to be weird, because these are actual bifocal lenses.
Does work actually cover your safety glasses?
Yeah, they cover them 100%.
Okay, good.
But it's my like these are just like, I mean, I didn't get like Gucci frames or anything. These are Champion frames. The only difference is I can adjust the earpieces based on what I'm doing.
Okay.
It's nice because, well, my head's like huge. Like these are the biggest width frames you can get. But yeah, because they're bifocal and they're the darkening lenses, they were surprisingly expensive. It's like, well, I'm going to use these fucking things. If I'm paying that kind of money for them.
I don't see why not.
But bifocal lenses are weird because I feel really tall now. Because when you look down, if you just look down through the bifocal lenses, the ground seems far away, so you have to look like this. But for model building and stuff, it's really nice. So I don't have to wear those giant head magnifiers anymore, which will give you a headache after an hour.
I can't even stare at my own anything for an hour anymore if I get a headache anymore, it seems like. So I just switched to special contact lenses you never have to take out. They actually last a whole month versus like, 2 weeks and then you can't see because your eyes are dry every day. So
And I can't do contacts because my left eye has a pretty radical stigmatism in it. So,
oh.
well, my right eye is 20/30. So, yeah, my glasses are, when you take them off and look at them flat, it's like, oh, there's a noticeable difference there. The doctor asked actually what kind of head trauma I had on the left side. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, your eye shouldn't be this fucked up. I was like, am I going to need surgery? He's like, no, we can correct it with lenses, but it's way out of whack with your right eye. It's like, I don't know what happened. I got kicked in the head by a horse.
All that Fight Club activity in high school really dragged me down.
What are yours? Oh, you got the thick lenses? Yeah, these are. Oh, yeah.
That's not too bad.
See, mine.
Oh. Sorry, I was -2.5 on both my eyes, so it's like, oh, okay, I'm worse than you. Or... so, I mean, I don't know the thickness of the lens versus the curvature. Or maybe it's like golf, where the closer it gets to 0, the worse it is. Or I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy says I need glasses. This is the first time I've ever needed them in my life. So.
Oh, I mean, it's good to be well off the now. It's not like, I got it when I was 12.
But he asked me, like, what do you do?
Yeah. Jesus.
I got my glasses when I was 46. So he was asking, like, what do you do? What are your hobbies? I said, oh, reading and building models. He's like, yes. And my eye doctor's Japanese, too. He's like, yes, you will need bifocals then. It's like, okay. He goes, you're going to hate me for about a week. And I said, why? Because your sense of depth will be all fucked up, but then you'll get used to it. Like, oh. And he was right. I didn't hate him, but I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I still do. I do a lot of this now when I'm working on stuff. I'll be like, instead of putting my head in it, so which is actually better. But these get super dark in like seconds. Like you go out in the sun and it's like because they're dark gray, and I was stunned at how like, oh wow, this is still this is actually very different. But I guess that costs a lot of money to have them change like that. I don't know how that works either, but okay, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes when I drive home now that the sun's out a lot, I'll just put my sunglasses on. I'll be like, yeah, fuck, I gotta have sunglasses. Yeah. Yeah, so I still have my sunglasses, and they said you can get prescription sunglasses, and I was like, "Oh, really? How much are Revo prescription sunglasses in this prescription?" Yeah, about $800. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna fucking do that. But That's not going to happen. I'll just wear regular sunglasses because I don't need to wear glasses to drive. So it's just mainly for close-up stuff. Yeah.
Close up.
What's up? Everyone going home? Everyone sober? Good. Good deal. I'm glad you had fun, guys. Oh yeah.
I thought we were going to, but at the same time, I know we started late, so.
Wait, I don't work Monday, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little. As a matter of fact, all but me and 6 other guys are laid off for the next 2 weeks. I still have to go in, but everyone else gets to be laid off. Wrestling overload.
And I get to take unpaid time off so I can talk to my contractors so I can get repair work done.
Well, there's a lot of fun stuff happening at my work, and we'll talk about that when we're not recording.
Yeah.
So yeah, Radium Girls.
Yeah.
The story of one of the most horrifying stories of human misery I've ever read. And I've read 50 books on the Holocaust. And I mean, the Holocaust is weird because it's just like evil, but this is something else and evil.
Mm-hmm.
My impression of this, like starting out was, hold on, there was a quote here I had. The fuck is that? Oh, okay. Murder.
Yeah, sorry.
What the hell is that?
I got to close the door, but my wife's got the TV kind of loud.
Okay, that's fine. As long as no one's being killed. But yeah, so anyway, Radium Girls was it was just one of those things like that kind of like that weird science of the turn of the last century, where it's like it's like science is magic and this stuff is great, and then you find out it's like, oh no, it's actually really bad, and the people that were the experts in it knew it was bad, but they just kept this rolling because it was the only way to illuminate dials and stuff at night, and they were military contractors, of course, and so this kept going for a long time. But just the notion of people like the health benefits of radiation, like putting it on your teeth or putting it on your face, and it's like, look, it glows at night, and these girls going home and their dresses were glowing and they wouldn't wash them because they thought it was cool. And you're just exposing yourself to so much of this radiation. I mean, this is what killed Madame Curie. Like, this is because she died of that. What's that blood? What's it called? I don't know. Toxoplasm something or another. Anyway, no, it's not toxoplasmosis, but it's a blood disease you get from radiation exposure. And that's how she died, and that's how a lot of these girls died. But the horrifying shit was when their teeth started falling out, and then they'd be messing with their jaw, and their jaw would collapse. And that happened to several people because I guess your body interprets radium as calcium. So it just puts in your bones in place of calcium, but radium doesn't build strength in your bones like calcium. So your bones become like paper mache, and you can just poke through them. And of course, if your skeletal structure collapses, then your organs start to fail. And it's like, oh, this is horrifying. Like, yeah, this was like a body horror thing that went on for 20 years.
Yeah.
And then the people from the U.S. Radium Corporation and then the other corporation, it's like their legal strategy was like, well, we know these people are going to sue us. We're just going to file continuances and stuff until they die. And then, fuck them. Then we get to keep all the money. And
well, I mean, either that or just plain straight out argue that, like, hey, the scientists back then when they did studies, they always sided with the corporations because they were the donors. Yeah. So they wanted the money, so they wouldn't be mean and say, oh, this corporation's in the wrong, they need to stop what they're doing. They would just be like, oh, maybe this is the reason why, maybe they should stop it. Because even like the one guy, the head scientist in the Orange, New Jersey case, where he was like, "Oh, you need to testify against them." Oh no, that's horrible. I couldn't possibly testify against them, even though I know that they didn't take any of my advice and they totally lied about my report and made up shit. It's like, so yeah, it was very disheartening because yeah, like everybody, like you guys both said, it's very horrible body horror and just depressing overall book and outlook for any woman that was either in the Ottawa plant or in the Orange plant. And I mean, they had a lot of good women that fought for a lot of things too, and were very strong, and went through a lot of suffering and pain to get the little money that they would get out of it. Which I was always surprised. The first case that got settled, even though they definitely should have won, regardless. But I know they are thinking about, they won't be alive to see the verdict. But I mean, it's the old. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have like gas spectrometers that can detect this now. But we can, if we ground your bones up to powder and light them on fire, we can tell by how they burn. It's like, yep, she had it.
Because either that, or like the one girl that supposedly died of chlamydia, because that's what they gave her on her official autopsy report, because they just made it up or whatever. It's like, oh, it's chlamydia because she was a whore, and it was like,
yeah, that was the thing. They were always calling them whores, saying they died of chlamydia because it was saying some.
yeah,
Yeah.
Or just the one in Ottawa where they grabbed the body before the family can get to it and just made up an autopsy report too. It's, Jesus Christ.
It was basically like saying someone had AIDS. It had the same stigma attached to it. But of course, back then, because women and like pet dogs had about the same level of human rights, that if you said that about a woman, it was like, well, yeah, she's just untouchable. I mean, they couldn't even find lawyers to take their case for a long time. No, I don't think they got the vote until, when did they have suffrage? 1905, maybe?
Yeah, but some of this stuff was in the early teens, so I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh yeah, that was the other fucking good part where it's like, Jesus Christ, really? This is the actual thing somebody let happen. Is like, oh, he just has like a philosophy degree or whatever. And it's like, no, I don't think that's a qualification for a doctor.
He is a doctor of Greek philosophy. So let him out. Well, I mean, this was in the era called the Edwardian era. So it was the reign of King Edward, and it was known to be. It was kind of an intersection of what we would understand as science and still kind of the values of the 1800s. Because they used to put plaster of Paris in bread to make it, so they get more bread out of it. And remember, asbestos was invented in this time. They used to put boric acid in milk as a preservative because the milk wouldn't go bad. But also, you're drinking boric acid, which eats the lining out of your intestines. There was a lot of lead flying around. Electricity was random because it was done by small suppliers in different areas. So you had varying currents depending on what house you lived in. And, a lot of it was just like copper wires in the wall as long as they were so far apart and they didn't spark. But those were live wires, non-insulated. So yeah, this whole era of technology. Yeah. No. And there was a lot of wonderful curatives back then too. Like what did people used to? Was it athletes would take prussic acid or something? I mean, it was stuff you would do now if you were trying to commit suicide. But back then, it was like doctors say this is great, and it's like, oh God. But yeah, this is probably one of the worst legacies of the what they call the Edwardian era, which was like a dark ages of technology. I mean, for the time it was high tech, but again, it was like the philosophies of a previous century were still, largely in effect. Like, don't talk about this silly woman, or this man is a learned doctor. He would never lie. And all this whole community's dying from horrible, horrible. No, no. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could do that. They still do stuff like that, but it had to be very targeted and in a controlled thing. You didn't just drink it and it attacked your tumor. It would attack your whole-
Because they even talked about that, the radium, why they thought it was good. It's like, oh, look at all the blood cells it's turning out. It's like, no, that's actually cancer in your bones. Making all those blood cells going to turn into cancer. But also, they even talked about, like, oh, yeah, it kills tumors, but it kills everything else around it, too. But they didn't put two and two together on that.
I'm sorry, women's suffrage passed in 1920.
Okay.
This was before women could vote.
Oh, and the whole case about the orange dial painting factory paying out for somebody's ruined laundry, and then they decided never to pay anybody out again because I think it was like $40 basically at that time.
Yeah.
It translated like $200. Like, oh god, we can't possibly pay anybody again. It's too much money.
And the thing that was really sad about this was like the people doing the work didn't know, but the people running the companies knew. Like when they made the radium paint, like they stood behind protective shields and wore garments that protected them. But when it was time to put the paint out and have people paint it, yeah, just go have at it.
Yeah.
They were wearing like cotton clothing, to just absorb everything. I mean, we had a resurgence of this too around the Manhattan Project, like all the side projects that came after World War II, and I mean, stuff we made German POWs do, and it was even more poisonous than radium, but it was also like this is necessary for the defense, and then go see what Stalin was doing in the 50s. Like, yeah, they destroyed a whole city because they were just dumping they would machine the explosive pits, and then just like, what do we do with all these shavings and stuff? I just dump them in this lake. And it's a lake to this day. If you go wade into it, you'll be dead in 24 hours. It's like, I think it's called Kishtim or something like that. That's not the name of the lake. That's the name of the town. But yeah.
Well, because there was a man-made lake too, or man-made lake because they just dropped a bomb to make a lake or whatever in the Soviet Union. So
yeah, I think that's the lake I'm talking about, where you'll die if you go into it.
Go wade in it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But Kishtim was where they poured mill tailings in just water. And then everyone in the town started to die like immediately. And they, of course, lied about it, like, these drunk peasants, too much vodka. It's like, oh, really? Is that why this guy's growing a third head? Like, nah, it's the vodka.
Yes, it totally is that. I don't know why you wouldn't think that.
So yeah, Radium Girls is a super depressing book.
But it's I thought it was very important still to read, and it was, even though it was super depressing, and reading all the wealth inequality and power struggle stuff between that, I wasn't a really good month as far as uplifting news and books. But it was still very enlightening and had a good history lesson to it, because I know people say it all the time, but it's like history repeats itself, and it very much is the truth, because there's not a lot of stuff in that book that hasn't happened again and again and again, and nobody ever seems to actually learn the lesson from it.
Well, wasn't this why OSHA was created?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And they always try to dismantle that every 5 years.
Well, yeah. Did you guys see the John Oliver piece on OSHA? So now, when OSHA goes through a factory, the biggest fine they can hand out for a single thing is $4,000. So it doesn't matter if it's somebody that would have got killed from the action or whatever, or somebody just cut off a finger. They don't get fined anything. And then people that run the factories have the power to pretty much say whatever they want or do whatever they want. Like they made one OSHA inspector walk through the factory floor with a box on her head because they was property of the company and it's trade secret or whatever, some bullshit. So she couldn't see it, i.e., covering up things that might have been wrong on the factory floor.
Oh,
And it's like, Jesus Christ. It was like, and they don't even have to abide by anything because all the penalties that were put through, especially meatpacking plants, like most of them were fought or never followed through with because there's no repercussions to really not doing anything with it.
yeah.
And so it's like, God damn it, really? Like, and that's just meatpacking plants, let alone wherever, what other factories and other shit are out there. So, it's really sad how much the government does, for how much they supposedly have oversight over things. I was just watching something about how some hand sanitizer has benzene in it, and like a lot of benzene in it,
Well,
or
that's
whatever. Well, because the FDA relaxed the benzene restriction, because it used to be like 0.001 parts per million, then they allowed it to be 2 parts per million because the hand sanitizer shortage. But people were taking advantage of it, so they had 8 times that amount or something like that in there.
okay.
And so basically, it was like, well, it's not going to be immediate, but it'll cause cancer and leukemia over time, and that's on the market and they're on the shelves. But nobody's actually, it's just good faith that they are operating on.
Yeah, I know. I know at work when they were like they'd start up the cars and do the hot test on the end of the line, or no, when they'd fuel them up at the end of the line, like they had like the biggest killer was benzene. That was the worst thing in gasoline.
Yep.
Was benzene. They were always trying to, because how you did that was you just automatically hooked this fuel pump up, and then you pressed the button, and then you walked away, and it started filling. And they're like, "Yeah, that's a good job." It's like, "Yeah, no, it isn't. That's not a good job." Oh, they have big fans and shit on. It's like it smells like a gas station down here. Whenever I walk down here, it's like, no, it's not. Yeah, I mean, you should look into those guys, lady, and all those ladies at the end of the line look like, they look like women who'd been like cutting fish on a boat and exposed to the elements for 50 years. Like, yeah, somehow I don't think this is the job for me.
No, and they said that's pretty much like the people that are most exposed to people that fuel cars and people that deal with gas. Because it's just a product of turning gasoline or fuel products into alcohol for consumption or use. And people know it's a carcinogen and know that's horrible for you, but they still sneak it into shit. So it was like, oh, okay, great. Because they only said like one actual brand. It was the one that had Baby Yoda on it, the Disney sponsor, so Disney pulled it. And they were doing a private investigation. It's like, why is Disney doing an investigation on hand sanitizer? That sounds like the worst person to do investigations that's scientific. But I don't know. I guess that's allowed. I don't know.
Yeah, nothing surprises me anymore.
Oh, I know. I didn't say it really surprised me, but it was just kind of like, really? Why the fuck? Why did Donald Trump's FDA bullshit allow this crap? Because now there's so much, because they brought up the point, there's so much hand sanitizer now, you could take a restriction off again, or you could make a restriction full again and you would be fine. Oh, but we're still in a time of crisis, we need it. It's like,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's everything in this country is always something like that. It's like a set of rules for one people, and then there's rules for the rest of us.
No, and that's the biggest problem with like reading all that kind of stuff again, where it's just like, oh, if you have money, the rules don't apply to you, and you can just pay a fine and get away with it. But me and you don't have that luxury. We have to play by the rules and hope we make it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, but it's still, like I said, it kind of just speaks to the history lesson. The history repeats itself, so that's why I didn't really have a problem with it per se. Because yeah, yeah, because the same thing, like Nathan said, could have repeated itself there, and thankfully didn't wasn't as big of a problem because they didn't just believe outright that because just like the whole fucking thing, like I was so pissed with the Ottawa Dial Factory when they put out a whole page advert all week about how it's so great for them and that they it was all lies from the Orange Dial Company in New Jersey, and it was like Jesus Christ, this fucking paid promotion. Why the fuck would people believe that? But it's like they didn't have any reason not to because they thought they weren't being lied to. And the plant manager was like, "Oh, it'll put make you ugly girls pretty by putting color in your cheeks and shit." And it was like, Jesus Christ. Oh, I Yeah, that's very true because especially like when they get to Ottawa and there's a huge religious thing more around that and going to church and having faith in it and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't more in the Orange, New Jersey part, but at the same time, it's like I don't know what really that was. That was just more or less a group coming together more than it was a community coming together. So it just sucks because I really fucking hate all those people, what they did, obviously, to all the women that work for them and the people, in the science department that are total idiots and totally knew everything, all the dangers, and still disregarded it and played with fire. But it's just like, Jesus Christ, like, all didn't they break down the half life of radium and it was like, what, 20,000 or 200,000 years or something?
Well, here's from this the NAL, which is the National Association Assessment of Adult Literacy. Okay, in the time frame we're talking about, the adult literacy rate in the U.S. was like 15%, and those are people that could read and write. I'm not talking about people who are functional in prose or in specialized forms of written communication. These are people that could just basically like read a newspaper. Because now the literacy rate in America is like 87% or something. Well, that's all the people that live in the literacy is people who live in the U.S. Like people that are functional in the English language. Now you can be functional in Spanish, but that doesn't count towards the national literacy rate at this time. Even though we don't have an official language, you probably should speak English here because it's going to be a lot easier to get by. But yeah, that's where that number comes from. Yeah. And literacy is it's weird because that's actually probably a higher number than what it is. Because I know people that can read basic things, but like hand them a book and they're like, oh man, I can't keep track of all these paragraphs and follow one thing to another because they just don't read very well. And it's sad. But I don't do math very well either. So it's like, yeah, everyone has their weakness. And it's not like I'm like a grammar expert, but yeah. But yeah, when you're talking about literacy rates of less than 20% of the population, and most of those people at that time was the professional classes that read, like workmen and people that worked wage-taking jobs in the radium plant. Yeah, and especially women were probably not super literate because it was like, why? All they're supposed to do is cook dinner and have my babies. That's the attitude back then, which I don't know. And that's still a lot of the world too outside of the West. So it's not like we're a million miles away from that either. Global.
Hmm.
Yes. The Back to the Future trilogy. Probably the least exciting but most well written of the Back to the Future movies.
Yes.
At least the most coherent, like A to B story with time travel. Yeah. Yeah. It was very steampunk.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened a lot. I like how I named their sons Jules and Vern. We can't pollute time with, knowledge of the future, but we can do that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice that he like settled in a world that made sense to him and where he wasn't seen as just an eccentric nerd, but like, oh, this is a learned man. Like we appreciate him. He's eccentric, but it's like he makes things happen. Like he's not just seen as kind of this strange weirdo who spent all his family money to build a time machine. Um, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Why does this happen?
I guess with Marty and Doc, like, since in the original movie he doesn't really look up to his father because he doesn't really have a relationship with him, or it doesn't seem to. Maybe I'd see Doc as like a father figure for him in the movie series. So maybe they're kind of family in a way. I mean, yeah, they're not blood related, but they have a family like relationship.
Yeah, and Doc was kind of his only escape from that because he needed
Mm.
it. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's definitely a more cynical age now, where it's back then it was like, don't ask too many questions, but now it's like,
Mm.
what's going on here? And unfortunately, you'd be right to ask those questions. Usually something is going on. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's not as broken because railroads aren't as used anymore as they were in the early years.
Yeah.
Well, that too, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember it, so.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I always thought the successor to this was Rick and Morty, but yeah. And the best Klingon. Oh.
No.
So here's some original lines. Oh, this is where the trouble begins. Hmm. Yeah, I always forget when I was watching this because like this is the last Back to the Future movie. It was like, oh yeah, it wasn't long after this. Like Michael J. Fox found out he had some horrible, debilitating disease, and I mean, he still had a career after this and did some TV stuff, but it's like, yeah, this is it's kind of almost sad. It's like because I think him and Christopher Lloyd are both still alive, but
Yeah.
how old is Christopher Lloyd now? He's got to be his.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see him tomorrow at Nobody. I think he's in his 80s, but yeah. He apparently has an action scene released from the trailer, so.
82.
Nobody. Yes. Well, because today I was telling my wife, I was like, oh, we'll get tickets to Mr. Nobody tomorrow, because I thought that was the movie title. I was like, oh no, that's a Jared Leto movie from like 10 years ago. It's not even the same thing, but it sounded right. So, because for some reason, like, just Nobody sounds like a short title, like there should be more to it or something more to it, but it just. I don't know. It's not that I had a problem with the movie title. It's just I kind of wish there was something else, like Mr. Nobody or I Am Nobody or something like that. But, oh, I don't know. Yeah, true.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking about Christopher Lloyd. Like I thought I was amazed. Like he was in Buckaroo Banzai right before the first Back to the Future and after Star Trek. But I guess I remember I read like one of Leonard Nimoy's books, and he was talking about directing Star Trek. And with Christopher Lloyd, he was like, "Oh, he's such an impressive actor," but he said he's a real good dramatist. And he's like, "How are we going to do a dramatic Klingon?" And Christopher Lloyd came to him with a bunch of ideas, like, "I'm going to be like really over the top with this character. I'm not going to be like cool and detached, and I'm not going to be like just." Incredibly violent with callousness. So he like basically invented his own character for Star, because no one's ever played a Klingon like that since. I mean, they've had the angry guys and the murderous guys, but he almost had like an element of mirth and kind of like respect for Kirk, which was his undoing. Was like, oh yeah, we'll just board your ship and take hostages. Yeah, yeah, but I mean, Krug was like just, and there was like a whole amazing story because the Klingons were never supposed to have cloaking devices. Like that was not a Klingon ship as the story was written. It was like Krug was supposed to be such a just a maniac that he stole that from the Romulans. But they didn't have time to film or the money to film that scene, so they're just like, the Klingons have a bird of prey, and they have one too, and it's like that's why that never coalesced. But yeah, that was I don't know how we got down to Star Trek, right? Oh yeah, Christopher Lloyd. But yeah, it was funny how he just kind of like, yeah, dude, Leonard Nimoy like gave him freedom, like, yeah, just kind of make your own character. It must happen a lot in Heat. It's like I'm supposed to believe this guy's a cop. He seems like a lunatic. Or the other thing in that movie was like, wasn't Al Pacino and was he in Vietnam or something? Yeah. Okay. I don't. Because somehow like he surprised the directors that because he actually knew how to use guns. But I'm not sure if he learned that in the military or he had like a lot of experience with it. I'm not sure. But anyway, Back to the Future 3.
Yeah.
Let's send off for the series.
Yeah, I mean, with Robert Zemeckis saying it'll never be made while he's still alive, and also Tom Holland talking about how they tried to talk him into doing Marty McFly, but I don't know how that real that is and how that would have actually went if that would actually been made if Robert Zemeckis holds the rights to it, or if they're just gonna make a spoof or like a knockoff Back to the Future, just have.
Dick jokes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's that guy? To Tom Wilson? Yeah. Because I was like, what? I don't know. I was looking for that name. I was like, wait a minute, that guy's name's Wilson. Or could I be wrong? I thought I was wrong at first. Oh, yeah, Chick McGee.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, I don't remember him doing much else. Oh, here it's the Atlas Shrugged Part 2. Okay. Yeah.
Isn't Atlas Shrugged just a giant Republican propaganda movie? Like
Oh, it's not even. Yeah, it's beyond. It's oh, what's that name? Lady's name? Ayn Rand. Objective.
Ayn Rand, yeah.
Ayn Rand, yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically anti-communist stuff.
Okay.
I had to read it in a business class or something. I was like, what are we reading? Like, okay, I get it. Okay, you don't want the communists to take over your country. Cool. It's like 1999 now. I don't think the communists are knocking down the door, but all right, whatever. Business is good. It's basically, yeah, it's like greed is good, but much more drawn out thing. I mean, kind of an interesting story, but with now we're in America in the reign of the oligarchs, it's like it's also scary because it's the other people that it was kind of a weird thing to read when it came out in the 50s. Now it's like, oh, this is frightening. Elon Musk is John Galt, It's like, what are we doing? But yeah. So anyway, Back to the Future. Check it out.
Yeah, good movie.
Good time. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. So it doesn't have the car wreck that leads to him leading a very mediocre life in the 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting movie with an interesting cast. Yeah. All right. Well, tune in next time to see where it goes. But this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
Andrew.